Today, we're going to be talking about faith, finances, and leadership with one of the GOATs himself, my buddy Mando Sallavanti III. Married to his high school sweetheart, Mattia, Mando is the founder of Freedom Path Wealth, a financial planning firm that helps high-earning execs and entrepreneurs and families simplify complexity, reduce taxes, and wealth with purpose. With more than 51,000 LinkedIn followers, he's exploding on other platforms as well. Mando also coaches financial advisors nationwide, teaching them the strategies that helped him build a thriving practice and personal brand. He's jacked and tan and a below-average golfer, but not for long because he golfs on his lunch breaks. He'll get your finances fully flexed. Mando, thanks for joining us today.
Dan, I'm so excited to be here, brother, and just grateful to spend an hour with you.
Yeah, man, you're one of my favorite guys. I feel like I'm talking to a younger version of myself every time we exchange messages or talk on the phone, and I'm just so pumped. You're doing such a great job just with everything you're doing, man. You're such a great guy.
I appreciate it, brother. It really means a lot from you.
One of my first questions is, as an athlete, business leader, husband, and financial planner, how has faith played a role in each area of your life?
Well, I'll tell you this, Dan. I remember growing up, it was always central in my family, like from my grandparents down to my parents, and then obviously down to me and my sister. Like, you went to church on Sunday. It was not like Monday comes around, you go to school. Like Sunday comes around, like you go to church, and like that's a part of what you do. And my parents really ingrained that in me as a kid. And as I got older, I kind of fell out of just even being in tune with my faith at all. I think growing up, I got to be in tune very much so by exposure. And it's kind of like your environment shapes you, right? I think we all know that, and we've heard that before.
Sure.
But when I got in high school and playing sports, and my first excuse is, oh, I have practice on Sunday, or, oh, I'm too tired and I need to sleep extra, and 8 a.m. mass is too early for me. And then you're in college and you kind of fall into the same habits. And even in college, I went to a Catholic college that had a church on campus, and I still made excuses not to go then. And when I got in my career, I really stayed in those habits, I would say. And not that I totally didn't have faith or anything like that. Like, I'm very consistent. I read the Bible in some way, shape, or form, whether it's Bible app or physical book, every day. I pray every day. I always did. Like, those things never really left. But I would say there's a difference between actually working the muscle and making it central to your life, and just, saying prayers when you want something or need something or are scared or fearful. And what changed for me probably about, from this point, maybe 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, you played a big role in this for me. And I think I've told you this, but you played a big role in this for me. And another one of my friends, Brian Azo, who I'll send this episode to, and I've told him this, but shout him out. You and Brian were two people for me who I saw as, like, faith was very central to you. It I would say intrigued me at like beginning. Like it intrigued me as, like, these are two guys.
Why is this dude talking so much about Jesus all the time?
Right, like all the time. Really successful dude. Not, and like, this is funny, but like, not a weirdo. Like, because where I grew up,
for sure, yeah.
You talked about religion more than kind of like when you're in church. It was almost like weird. And then I started meeting people over the past few years who I'm like, they talk about God, they talk about Jesus, it's at the forefront of their life. They're not weird people. Like, wait, who's really the weird people in this? And, there's that saying that goes like, Satan wants to make sin look cool and like good look bad, or whatever the heck the saying is.
Right. I know.
Everyone knows what I'm trying to say. And, I had tough times in businesses, and that ultimately, I would say this: there were times in my business and in my life in the past 3 to 4 years that were very uncertain, and times that I didn't have answers, and times that I don't think I had people who had answers. And that's where I started leaning into my faith, into God, into Jesus more. That things started unfolding in my life, Dan, that the only explanation could be faith. And that's when I'm like, this matters more than just, am I checking the box of reading the Bible and saying a prayer? Like, what's really the purpose in my life, and what am I pushing toward? And it's something that I can't comprehend and is bigger than me.
That's awesome, man. And thank you. I'm so honored that I've played just a small part in your journey. And we talked about this. We've been connected now almost 4 years, which is crazy. That's the beauty of social media and online presence, of starting to post. Actually, part of my story is financial, how I got started on LinkedIn. I'm not sure if you know this, but I was at youth group one night and we're talking about what's the difference between gambling and like investing. And then what's the difference between speculation like Bitcoin, of hoping that it's going to get good, or SpaceX or something where, that's more of a speculative investment. It's not the same thing as gambling. It's not the same thing as investing. It's totally different. And these kids, 9 of them waited 45 minutes after youth group was over on a Wednesday night to ask me investing questions, and ask me questions that my dad taught me when I was 6 or 7 years old. My dad's been in the insurance space for like 40 years, a long time. But he taught me from a very young age that, hey, if you give me this dollar, there's this thing called the rule of 72. And in 7 years, because we're going to divide that by 10, so I'm learning math plus I'm learning money. In 7 years, that's going to become $2. So by the time you're a little bit older than your older brother right now, it's going to be worth twice as much. And he said, the best thing is I'm going to take that dollar and I'm going to make it $2 today. I'll double it, so it'll be $4 in 7 years. And I'm like, take all of my money. I started investing very soon, and researching and getting to know guys like Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett. And that's why I started posting on LinkedIn, was that there's probably somebody out there that needs to learn these lessons that my father, I'm so blessed to have him in my life, has been teaching me for so long. And when the student is ready, the teacher appears, if you've ever heard that phrase. There's so many people out there looking. And then it turned into like, well, if I'm going to start talking about finance, I should probably talk about Jesus. That's a little bit more important. My favorite scripture is, for what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and yet forfeits his soul? Or what can he give in exchange for his soul? We can become so focused on our finances, and so many people will plan their finances because that's what's most important to them. And they don't say that, but it is. And that's why they're spending it. But they don't think about, what does my soul look like in 5 years or 10 years or 20 years? What is my wife's? What are my kids' souls? Where am I truly making the greatest investment, which is in people, not leaving something to people?
Mm-hmm. I think there's, like, for me at least, in putting faith at the front of my life, it's like there's an ego death that has to happen. Because I'll tell you a story, and I have a business coach. His name's Tommy Schaff, and Tommy's also been someone who had a big impact on me with my faith. And this is even like taking it to another level, because I just started working with Tommy, Dan, back in March, and we're here in July 31st. So we're talking basically 4 months ago, 5 months ago at most. And he's a business coach, so one of the things we talk about a lot is, what's your vision? Where do you want to go? Like, what do you want in life? What do you want to do? And, I said all the things, and it's not just stuff about me, it's impacting other people, but it's also like just material things I want, and places I want to go, and things I want to do for my mom, and, social media followers, and money you want to make, whatever. And I did this exercise. He wanted me to like put this whole thing together, and I gave it to him, and he's like, great depth. Awesome. Do you want the bad news or the good news first? And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, can you talk? I'm like, yeah, I could talk anytime for you, Tommy. And he's like, okay, I'm calling you. So he calls me. Little did I know I'd be on the phone with him for 3 hours after that. But the first thing in that conversation that he said to me, he said, Mando, you're sharp. You're a smart kid. You have empathy. You care about other people, and you can understand their feelings. And you learn quick, and man, you take action as fast as anyone I've ever met. But everything on this sheet is about you. And I'm like, Tommy, what do you mean? I just said I want to be able to give $1 million to my church, and to my college football program, and to my high school football program. Like, what do you mean? I want to buy my mom a car. Like, I have stuff on here that's not about me. And he's like, everything on here is about you, because with the talent you have and the way you work, that everything on here gets achieved, and you will be pounding your chest on top of the mountain like, I did that, because you can do it all. There's nothing on here that you don't need help outside of yourself for. There's
Mhm.
nothing on here that you can look back and the explanation can be anything other than Mando did that. He's great. Look at him. You need to set goals so big that you don't know how you get there, that when you get there, you look back and the only explanation is, that's not me, that's God.
Mhm.
He said, you're the vessel, not the source. And when you think you're the source, that's ego. That's
Mhm.
where you start to get into, false idols and whatever else, and could go down the whole rabbit hole. But man, the way my vision for my life changed when I started thinking, how can I look at what can I do in this life? And the only explanation that I could say, that's not me, that's God. Dude, you want to talk about like a breakthrough and a light bulb moment? Oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah, you start looking at every single day differently. One of the things that I love through 72 Ministries when I'm coaching folks in the same fashion, right? I'll send them a journaling exercise. We'll hop on the phone for a complimentary call, and then we'll just talk through like, what is your life? We'll talk about what does it look like on the day you die, and how do you get there? That's great, but what's going to outlive you? What's going to outlast you, and why? Why is such a huge component? Because you identified it. You are so talented. You are such a hard worker. That application, that knowledge and application gap, the knowing and doing gap, it's so wide with so many people. I only like to work with people that actually apply stuff, right? And I'm sure that Tommy's the same way, which is why you guys are working together.
Mm.
But it's so attractive when you connect with somebody that they learn a lesson, they read a book like the Compound Effect or Who Not How or 75 Hard, the books that you've got there on your shelf,
Mhm.
and they apply it that day. They apply it that hour. They apply it right away, right? And so many people will do a journaling exercise like that, just like they'll do a financial plan, but they won't discipline themselves to actually pursue it.
Exactly, man. And ultimately, it's like everyone has ideas. Information's a commodity. I could put a plan, like, dude, ChatGPT, Claude, I could put a plan together,
Right.
I could literally wave a
People
magic
people
wand.
do that all the time though, buddy. They'll send me like, oh well, ChatGPT did that. Okay, well, how did it challenge you? How did it stretch you? How did it actually impact your life? How is it going to hold you accountable? Any of these things. The reason you're reaching out to a coach isn't because you don't have enough information or you can't find the information somewhere. It's because you need the same reason why you needed a football coach. I needed a football coach. We needed people who have been beyond where we want to go or are where we want to go, and then can help draw that out of us and help keep pushing us when we don't believe we can.
Right. 100%.
So you're doing coaching as well. What does
Mhm.
that look like? Are you doing a similar thing? What is your
And,
coaching process and style?
my life is, it's fun. One of my friends I was just talking to, he's like, we make plans and God laughs at them, right? And I,
For
I
sure.
always, my mentor always said to me, he says, God's a funny guy. And I love that phrase. God's a funny guy when I look back at my life. So I always played football. I played through college. My plan was even to go play in Europe after college. And I get a shoulder injury my last year. Well, it was my redshirt junior year. My redshirt senior year, I recovered. I was going to come back. Season gets canceled from COVID. So now I'm left with a decision. Do I want to go back to school for a sixth year, or do I want to go into finance where I've been interning and I got my degree in? I ultimately chose, with my mentor's guidance, to go into finance and start because he felt I had the tools and I was doing well and I could make a name for myself. And candidly, it went great, right? So as I went into finance and football kind of stepped away from things, and I grew my business back to, God's a funny guy, and getting to the answer to the question here with my coaching, I was selling sneakers in college and I was doing that on
Mhm.
social media. I was bored. I was just in my last year of college selling sneakers because my friend did it. He made money. I think I can make money. I like sneakers. Cool. When I got in business, I started doing social media, and everyone around me told me I was dumb. I'm playing office. I'm wasting time. And then I built my business over the next, really the last 6 years. I've built my business. 75% of my revenue comes from there. And I had so many advisors as I gained traction reach out. How are you doing this? What are you doing? And Dan, like you, I'm probably similar, that you take when the right person reaches out in the right way, you're going to give them time, even if I have no idea who they are. and say, yeah, I got 30 minutes for you. But the volume of it, even with people reaching out, well, I'd be broke and not have a business if I took all the calls. And I wish I could help everybody, as I'm sure you would too, but it's just not possible. So I started charging people for coaching, and it was one-on-one. I still do a small amount of one-on-one, but it was one-on-one. And basically that evolved then to last year. I figured, why don't I start a community at a lower price point than my one-on-one? People can join. I'll have live calls. I'll record all the content in there. And if they want to learn how to get clients on social media and build their business, it's all here and I could give it away. So the community is really where I focus my time now. I work with a select handful of one-on-one clients, but the community really is the focal point.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome, man. And that's that go-giver mentality. Have you read The Go-Giver?
Yeah, I have.
Right. It's just like, how many people can I help? How well can I serve them? What can I give away logically, right? Because we can't do it all. But our stories are so similar. I mean, I can remember going to incentive trips my first year after starting to post, because I started posting in November. In March of that same year, I'm getting guys. I had one guy honestly snicker as we got on the elevator and say to his wife, "Oh, that's the LinkedIn guy," and it's like, okay, cool, awesome. Why does that bother you? Why do you have to react that way? I've had people go, "Oh, it's Mr. LinkedIn," and they're acting so weird. And I'm like, just chill out, you guys. Like, I'm trying to help people and serve people and love people. And for me, a lot of it, there's a lot of people that'll reach out and I'll want to help them. I find it helpful to have core values and to really have a clear definition of where you want to go, to sift and to sort and to filter. Yes. I would love to help all those people and have conversations with each and every one of them. It's not logical. It's not practical. It's not prudent or wise. When I'm already leading ministries here in town, I've got a marriage, there's other things going on. You can't help every single person. And even in the Bible, Jethro says to Moses is leading he's leading the Israelites out of Egypt, and he gets to Midian where his father-in-law is Jethro, and he's trying to judge over all of the different matters at hand. Every problem that comes to him comes into his tent, he's like trying to judge it all. And what his father-in-law says, what you're doing is not wise. You should be dividing this labor up in hundreds and tens and hundreds and fifties and tens, and then the bigger ones they can bring to you. And so that's the same thing I kind of do, though. If there's ever a coaching need or a ministry need that somebody has that their local church can provide, I'm always pointing them back to their local church, back to small groups, back to their pastor, back to who is around you supporting you. You shouldn't pay me for that. That's not why I'm here. Or YouTube, on our YouTube channel, if I can send them 2, 3, 4, 5 videos that answer their question. There's a guy right now who's an awesome guy that we've been communicating back and forth in the UK, who I'll probably never meet, who's exploring faith, who's, I don't think would identify himself as a Christian, but he's exploring it. And so he'll ask a question, he'll describe a problem, and I'm like, oh, cool. Here are 2 videos on that. Let me know your questions after that. Similar to your community, where there's a lot of stuff there for free, serving people, helping people, loving people. And then as that's coming in, then yeah, sure, maybe I'll coach 2, 3, 4, 5 of these individuals if it makes sense, and if there's a deliverable, if there's something that I can really help them do, and if they've identified that they're the person's applying that knowledge.
Yeah, and I think, and the community is paid, just to clarify that as well. It's just a lower cost, a couple $100 a month, few $100 a month, whereas my one-on-one is obviously much more. And the beauty of guesting on a lot of podcasts I've done in the past, there's been so many where I'm just like giving it all away, and I'm like, hey, watch these. If that still doesn't work, like, we can talk, and maybe there's a need for something further.
For sure. No, that makes sense. You mentioned earlier, I'm going to go back, get away from the communities a little bit.
Yep.
You mentioned earlier that there were just certain things that happened in your life that were clearly God and you couldn't deny it. What were some of those things?
When I look back, football would be the first one, 100%. Like, football ending would be the first one, because I don't have the ego to think that a global pandemic came on because of me. That's not what I'm saying when I say this. I want to prelude, but I want to say this. Football is my life. My wife now, Mattia, who we got married almost a year ago now. Our anniversary is coming up in about 10 days. And we were together. I'm playing football. I was probably going to go play football in Europe after I played college. I wasn't good enough for the NFL, but I absolutely could have went and played in Germany or somewhere over there. I had friends that have done it, and I knew it was a possibility and it was on the radar. So number one, like, you don't make much money with that, but they pay for you to live and you make some spending money. So it's still a good life, but like, you don't make what I'm making in finance. Let's just call it that, right? So number one, it's the money that I've been able and blessed enough to go on and make to this point in my life. And, obviously hire employees to help them make life-changing money, which is awesome too. And just hopefully continuing to do that. There's that. Number two, if I went to Europe and played football, like, who's to say that me and Mattia even end up getting married? Like, that could be a very big, like, downstream thing that takes an effect of, here I am trying to play football for 20 grand a year. And why can't I hang up my cleats? And who is this guy that just can't give it up? And who knows if she moved with me or whatever. And you could play it out 10 ways to Sunday, right? But I think there's that. So, and the pandemic kind of forced me out of that into finance to do this as a career. So I think number one, when I look back, there is that, because a global pandemic was probably the only thing that was going to prevent me from not continuing to play football. Like, I lived and breathed football, and it was everything to my core of my identity. That's the first thing for sure, Dan. The second turning point as well was starting on LinkedIn, which I did middle of 2022. And again, back to the global pandemic thing, I only started selling sneakers on Instagram because of the pandemic, because I was bored. I remember it was Easter of 2020, and we're sitting at the table with my parents and our whole family and everyone. And I said, when we make a public declaration, we're that much more likely to carry it out. And I said to everyone at the table, I said, I'm going to start buying and reselling sneakers and clothing on Instagram. And everyone laughed at me. They're like, oh yeah, like whatever. And I'm like, okay. And like, they didn't laugh at me in a harmful way, but like, your parents, like, oh, stupid idea, whatever. So I did it then, and they're like, oh wow, like, he actually went through with it. But I start doing that. That was social media. Why that correlates? Because then in 2022, I started on LinkedIn. I was already 2 years in my business. I hadn't used it the first 2 years in my business. And I only got the idea to do LinkedIn because I was like, well, I made money online with sneakers, so I could do this. The freaking pandemic's the only reason I did anything with sneakers. And then go all the way back that ties this loop together, which is just crazy because you could have never forecasted this. I was always going to be a doctor because my dad's a doctor and he was my first hero. And I decided not to do that, which led me at 19 years old on a big soul searching journey, which led me into people's content like Gary Vaynerchuk and Andy Frisella. And I had followed Gary Vee all through these years. And in 2022, when I started on LinkedIn, when I was trying to figure out how do I grow my business, all I heard from Gary Vee was LinkedIn, TikTok, LinkedIn, TikTok. And I'm like, all right, I can't do TikTok, so LinkedIn it is. And really, I wouldn't have a business today, Dan, if it wasn't for that. But you see how many of those pieces had to line up. Nobody could have forecasted that. Nobody could have put that together. Nobody could have laid that out and been like, yup, that's the path. There was just so much stuff that stemmed out from it and had to happen that I'm like, I can't explain any of that.
Right. Yeah. And it's not a coincidence, right? And Old Forge has something like 8,000 or 9,000 people.
Yeah.
Right. And now you've got 51,000 followers on LinkedIn, and I'm sure you're gaining more on other platforms, right? And Fond du Lac, where I live, has maybe 45,000 people, but we're approaching 37,000 LinkedIn followers. And you've been so much more consistent than I have been. I've taken, 2, 3, 4 months off at a time at points. And that's one thing I got to really commend you on is your discipline and consistency in so many areas of your life, whether it's working out, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's your finance, you got that dialed in. And you mentioned earlier that I've inspired you. You inspire me too, man. And that's iron sharpening iron, as Proverbs 27:17 talks, or 27:17 talks about, that we're sharpening each other. Every time I see something from you, I love just Anthony posted yesterday how much you've impacted his life and the way that his business has grown as a result of that. And that's a beautiful thing, man. Like, we are not put on this earth for ourselves. We're put on this earth to represent Jesus Christ and to love others like he loved us. And that discipleship, that's really what that is, because discipleship is teaching a student. Disciple means student. You're taking the skills and the gifts that God has given you that you've worked hard to develop. Like, I'm an introvert, so this is not natural for me to have a podcast or a YouTube channel or to be on LinkedIn talking about this kind of stuff. But again, when God calls you to do something, or he opens a door, or even if he just even like a centimeter, and with beyond a shadow of doubt that you're supposed to go through it, you got to kick that door open. You got to go through it, right? And so from a discipleship standpoint, man, you're doing it. You're out there, and you're 27, 28?
28.
Yeah, man, you're so young. I'm 37, which is also young. People watching this will be like, you both are babies talking to each other, right? But the way that you're so disciplined and consistent it's an inspiration to me, and it motivates me to keep going, right? Because there's plenty of days where it's silence along that journey, plenty of days where you don't see the results. I've been laughed at too. I sold knives, Cutco, door to door when I was 18 years old, and I'm an introvert. I have no sales skills. I've never made cold calls before, and people are like, you're going to do what with your last summer before you go to college? And they're making fun of me if I'm showing up to a grad party at like 9 p.m. in a shirt and tie. And then I got a bunch of trophies, in the background that I say I cut my teeth selling knives, where I've been in sales now 19 years. And that was foundational because I spoke it in front of someone else. I think I was selling knives for 2 weeks and hadn't made a single sale when we're at a meeting and the regional director says, hey, whoever hits this certain number, which is what this award here and this one here is for, whoever hits this certain number is going to be at my cabin. Right. So he casted a vision. They're going to be invited specially to my cabin for an entire day where we can just hang out and have fun. And it's only going to be the top achievers in the region. And I walked up to him right after that. I was sitting in the back because our group got there late. And so we were in the back, which is not normal for me. I'm usually a front sitter. And I walked all the way up to the front of the room. I shook his hand. I said, my name is Dan Rosenblatt, and I'll see you at your cabin. Right. You make that declaration, and then you figure out whatever you got to do to make it happen. And for me, that was working 80 to 100-hour weeks, going door to door, being the guy that people were laughing at. And that's the vibe, that's the energy, that's the character that you have, is you'll do whatever it takes. If God puts something on your heart, it's not, whether it's selling sneakers or it's finance or it's building a community or it's now your YouTube channel, you're going to go all in, man. And I love that about you.
I appreciate it, brother. And I think there's a couple things to call out there with people who laugh or make comments in general, and I'm sure you've experienced this too. They're just projecting their own insecurities onto you for risks they didn't make, so they can justify decisions that they made in their life because they don't want to take the risk or don't want to put themselves out there or be vulnerable. And
10,000%.
I've learned to have empathy for those people and,
Correct.
and wish them well, pray for them. It's
Yep.
not. They actually don't have the comprehension to even understand that they're doing that. And it's just their jerk reaction because of decisions they've made in life. And it's sad more than anything, really. Second, you talk about the discipline and the action taking, and I appreciate it, brother. Like, I really do that you acknowledge that and see that, because it's important to me. And I believe so hard in this. I have a tattoo this year that I got on this arm, and this one on my left arm that I have, it's basically to commemorate my grandfather and my great uncle that have passed away. And it's kind of like, it's a stairway to heaven. And it's like the end of life. It kind of signifies. So I always have been thinking about, this is my first tattoo. I'm like, what's my second tattoo going to be? And the one verse in the Bible that kept coming back to me over and over the past year specifically, it was like Dan, I read a lot on a Bible app, and it'll, give you verses and you scroll through them and you read them, whatever. And they're random, but I also think they're not random. And I have many examples of this. Weirdly, commonly coming up was the verse, the last will be first and the first last, for many are called, but few are chosen. And I forget the exact name and number of it, but I know it by heart. And I'm like, why does this keep coming up? Why does this keep coming up? Why does this keep coming up? And I got it tattooed on me. And this tattoo is like a silhouette of a man looking out into a big valley, waterfalls, mountains, etc., to represent the potential of life. And where I'm bringing this back to, and what you said is what that verse means to me. The last will be first and the first will be last, for many are called, but few are chosen. Everybody has gifts in their life. Everyone has God-given gifts. Everyone has potential to do something in their life. But the difference between being called and chosen is you take your calling and you live through obedience with it, and you live through stewardship with it, and you do the things you should do. And I mean, geez, how many Bible verses can you quote that mention the value of what hard work is? There's probably 100 of them, and more than that, right? Like, so to me, that's what that means to me. And it's a reminder, and I love that I see it every day. It's just a reminder of, dude, you're blessed and you're given blessings, but it's on you to make a blessing worth something ultimately.
Yeah, I love it, man. And that's beautiful. I'm sorry that your grandfather, and did you say your uncle?
My grandfather, my great uncle, it's okay.
Great uncle.
It was 13 years ago they passed on. They
Okay.
were two people. My grandpa, Bob Semenza, my great uncle, Rawling Smith. They were two dudes, just very, very strong role models in my life. And I love them. I love them.
Well, I'm glad that you're honoring them that way, and that you've tied in the Bible verse, because, you know, my mentor just passed away last Friday, a week ago.
So I'm sorry.
And, yeah, man, I appreciate that. And I'm struggling with it so hard, but in a lot of ways I'm rejoicing for him, right? And one of the things that's helped me get through it each and every day is knowing that I'm doing exactly what he would want me to be doing, by honoring God through hard work, by sharing Jesus on social media, by getting my workout in and being disciplined. And I record a quick devotional over that. It's usually 90 seconds to 2 minutes, where I do a workout and then I memorize a Bible verse. I know that those are things that honor him, because he had the heart that Jesus has. And I know that God has called me to do those things, right? And I'm sure that so many times, because you were playing college football without them, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
So I'm sure there were so many times where you thought of them and you're like, no, I'm going to go to the weight room. I'm going to go put in the extra time in film. I'm going to go study. I'm going to work hard. That honors them. And it's a beautiful thing to remember those. And I think it's amazing how God can weave through our stories, and people that don't even know God know that they're missing something. There's a void there, right? Like they're searching. And I think it's going to be in the car or in the job, or once their bank account hits a certain amount, or they think it's in the job or the promotion, and it's not in any of those things. It's only in a relationship with Jesus Christ.
Well, bro, 100%. And even for me, like when I turned my business around with LinkedIn, earlier in that year, I was probably like the most unhappy I'd ever been in my life. And when I was 22 years old, I made $250,000. And then
Which is unreal, life-changing money for a 22 for
like,
most people.
Dan, I didn't know I was going to make $25,000, and I made $250,000 in financial services. I'm like, it might as well have been 250 million, because when you're 22 and I, mind you, living in my mother-in-law's basement with like, dude, I could do anything I wanted to, basically. So now I remember it's the winter the following year, and I was just like sad and anxious and depressed, and maybe not like truly depressed. That's a little exaggerated, but at some level, I'll never forget it. We were at their house, and I was off, and one of Matia's mom's friends is there, and she's always around the house because she lives in an upper apartment, long story short. And she's like, dude, you're off. Like, I can see it. I can feel your energy. Like, you're off. And what's going on? And I remember I just broke. Like, I literally started crying in front of her mom's friend, her mom's boyfriend, like right there. I was 23 years old. And I kind of had this realization that I was chasing money as the end all be all with everything. And granted, it was for 1 year. It was not my entire career, but I'm so grateful for that because it made me realize that if I feel this with 250,000, why would I not feel it with 2.5 million? Why would I not feel it with $2 billion? And it made me really step back and assess, like, what is important to me? What are my goals? And I think with fulfillment in your life, I don't think that comes without faith, because, not to get morbid, but we are like, I always say this to people who like have comments negatively about faith in general, and, you know, believe what you believe, but like, here's my thing. Let's play this out. We are here on a rock in the middle of freaking space, living in perfectly great conditions for now, that we can all exist and breathe air. And me and Dan are on a damn podcast right now. Like, what's a podcast?
Right.
So, okay, what's more likely, playing this out? Is it more likely that we have a creator, God, Jesus, that is at a level of consciousness that none of us could comprehend and created all of this? Or is it more likely that we're just a random simulated social experiment on a freaking rock in the, like, when you really play that out, it sounds so stupid to think anything otherwise. I'm not calling anyone stupid, but ultimately you can go down a very deep, dark path of like, what's the point of even waking up today? Which I think people struggle with that when they zoom out and think about life in that way. And for me, I find peace in my faith and thinking about, you know, I get to go around at life. Great. Like, what is my purpose here and how can I lean into that? So it's a funny exercise to really go through mentally, man. It is.
Well, it really is, man. And it's like thinking, if you look at a car, you know that somebody designed it because it's so complicated. If you look at a painting, you know that somebody painted it because it's so beautiful. If you see me paint a painting, you don't want that painting. That one's going in the garbage, right? And I admire art in all of its forms, whether it's music. If you hear this beautiful music, you know somebody's playing it or somebody wrote it, right? Or both of those things. You wouldn't just think it randomly became a song, or somebody was just like tic-tacking around that didn't know what they were doing, just picked up an instrument and started playing this beautiful song. Same thing with the painting. It wouldn't just arrive. You know that there's a painter to that painting. There's a designer to the engine. Just think about how complex an engine is. I'm not an engineer, but I know it's beyond my comprehension. Probably learn it, YouTube it, all that stuff. But all of those different things are far less complex than even a cell in our human body. Just a cell, right? Down to our DNA, which is even smaller. This is the theory of, well, not theory, but the concept of irreducible complexity. The smaller and smaller you go in our body or in nature, it gets more complex, not less complex. It's not an accident that it's there. There's a designer, right? You wouldn't expect a tornado to go through a junkyard, even if it's full of cars, just car parts, and build a Maserati. That just wouldn't happen. And our body is much more significant and beautiful than a Maserati. It didn't happen from a bunch of random explosions over billions and trillions and quintillions of years and iterations and expanding and contracting and failure and success. And now all of a sudden, we're the only one that we can find that there's life on, and it just happens to have the perfect conditions for us.
Right. And I think the thing to just tie it together and hammer it home, and the thing that gives me so much conviction in my faith personally, is how big of an ego do I have to think that I have the level of consciousness to understand the entire universe?
Right.
Like, seriously, because where does everyone go? Oh, what's the science? What's the proof? I love when people say this. I'm like, okay, well, you're basically saying you're a narcissist because you're the all-knowing, smartest person in the universe to understand exactly how all of this works. Like, they're absolute. It is naive to think there are not things that we cannot comprehend. It's naive to think there's not things that we cannot comprehend. There Correct. Absolutely is. And that's what faith ultimately is. And that's just what it is.
Yeah. You know that I've been blessed to volunteer with our youth group for 15 years. And I've co-led our men's ministry for 4 years and been an elder at our church for 7. and I have the blessing to preach some Sundays and deliver messages and devotionals and different things, right? And I actually taught at a Christian school for a year. I taught Spanish there and Bible. One of my favorite things to talk about with the kids when we're discussing knowledge and ego and creation and just the vastness of life in general is like, if there's a tiny atom like this, tiny, 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 and this entire room that I'm in represents all of the atoms in it, represent all the knowledge that exists, which we know that it's beyond that. And God possesses all of that knowledge, and he was before it, and he's through it, and he's eternally the creator of it, right? If our knowledge and our understanding is one atom, and let's say that we're really, really smart, let's say we're 10 times smarter than the average person, and it's 10 atoms. Look at how big the room is, bro. Is it possible that there's an all-knowing, all-powerful, omnipresent God that did all of this that's beyond the 10 atoms of your understanding? But we get so stuck in that understanding, and that's where faith comes in, of going, a small amount of cells coming together creates a baby over 9 months, and how many mistakes and how many iterations can that take before the human race is gone, right? Then if we reduce that even more complexly, when a sperm hits an egg, there's an electrical impulse that goes around that egg so that no other sperm can connect with that egg, because then it wouldn't survive and it wouldn't form a baby. How many iterations of that had to happen in order for, how many trial and errors before the human race is gone? Or we look at mice and bats. When I was in 8th grade, I didn't grow up in a Christian household, so this isn't just me, spewing what I was taught. I've really thought a lot about this. My dad's side of the family is Jewish, and my mom's side of the family is Christian roots, but mostly agnostic now, and doesn't attend church and doesn't talk about God. In a recent obituary for a family member, he wasn't even mentioned. I don't even know if we're going to do a funeral, right? So it's just like, that was not the path that I was on until God gripped me out of that. But when I was in 8th grade, even, I came to the Lord at 18, but when I was in 8th grade, we're watching videos and we're learning about evolution and physical science, and that's great. But I've always been a question person. I want to dig deeper. I want to ask more. Let's go deeper, further. And they say, well, we don't have the missing links, but a bat and a mouse are very closely related. And I start going, well, a bat has webbing so it can fly. And at what point, because it showed like the mouse becoming the bat or the bat becoming the mouse, at what point is partially webbed fingers an evolutionary advantage? It's, unless they're swimming, it's not helping them get away from owls and bigger predators and all these other things. Again, there's one generation and it's going to pass away. That dog don't hunt. If we really think about it, and we don't have the missing link, and we think, well, when is webbing helpful for a mouse, again, to run real fast and escape from a predator, or to dig holes, or to climb things? It's not really ever helpful. Or when is a bat with partial wings ever going to survive? It's not going to happen. So there are countless examples of things like that in life that if we just continue to explore long enough. But what happens is we get fixated. And I love, and I'm sorry, I'll turn this back to you. I love when people challenge my faith. I want to learn more. Yeah. I'm genuinely open to being wrong in every area of my life, because if I ever get so fixed, that goes back to that ego and that pride of, I think I know better than everyone else, and no one can prove me wrong, and they all need to know what I know. It's like, people ask me, like, how do I know I'm saved? Or how do I get to heaven? Or, I believe that in this book here, there are answers to certain aspects, but there's a whole lot of it that's left to our eternal judge, which is God, our Heavenly Father. And again, I think there are answers to some of those main questions, but there's a whole lot. I'm not Catholic. There's things that Catholicism and Reformed Christianity disagree on, but one of my best buddies is Jack Ziegler, and he's Catholic, and he loves Jesus more than anyone I know. Right. And I'll talk to people and they're like, oh, I'm a recovering Catholic, or I'm recovering Reformed, and now I'm Catholic, or now I'm, and it's like, guys, do you love Jesus? Are you following him with your whole heart? Is he the source of your life? Are you becoming more like him every day and sharing him with other people? I think those are the main things. And do you believe that he's the only way to heaven? Like, I can't earn it. You can't earn it. Throughout this conversation, we both have agreed we are very imperfect people, and we can't do these things without God. that line that ties my faith to where I am today, and my in-laws and my mentor and my wife and all the opportunities I've been given is not because of me. And same thing with you. So I'll throw that back at you however you want to respond to that. We got 4 minutes, man.
Yeah,
I've loved this conversation. And I asked one of the questions that I sent you. I sent you like 13, but I've only asked one of them.
Because I told you, Dan, we could talk all day, brother. But I feel like this is fitting. And my mentor, my business coach, Tommy, who shared this to me, he's like, you live your life by this, you're going to end up okay no matter what you do. And it was Matthew 6:33, but seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. And it's exactly what you said, Dan. It's like, serve out your purpose. What is it? How do you lean into it? And everything else takes care of itself. That's the bottom line. You treat people good, like everything nothing new under the sun. Everything there is, like, it's funny how there's some verse to relate back to it in some way, shape, or form. And if you just at a baseline, right? Like, I think anybody listening to this and anyone in the world, we all know at a base level, what's the good thing to do in this situation versus the bad? And if you do more good, you're probably living out your purpose, whatever that is, through God, and you're probably living an okay life and feeling fulfilled. And so many people make it more complicated than that, but I just think it doesn't necessarily need to be.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that doesn't earn our way to heaven, right? Being a good person, it's through Jesus Christ's blood, right? And we seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you. We think we know what we need. We think we know what we want. We have no idea, but God knows. And scripture also talks about which one of you, if your son asks for some bread, or your child asks for some bread, is going to give him a stone. Or if he asks for a fish, is going to give him a snake or a scorpion. None of you. Right? Because you're a father. That would be ridiculous if you did that. Like, oh, daddy, I'm hungry. I want some bread. Well, here's a rock. Like, you're not going to do that, right? How much more so our Heavenly Father for those who love him. So when we come to him in Matthew 6, prior to that, right, it's talking about the worries of this world. It's talking about, like, oh, what am I going to wear today? And, like, what am I going to eat today? And what is my body? It doesn't say this, but, like, what does my body look like? Or what car am I going to drive? Or what about my bank account? It's all of those worries that choke out our faith. And then it comes later. If you seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, all that stuff's going to be taken care of. It's all going to be good. And that comes down to, like you said, there are over 100 verses in scripture that talk about self-discipline or some form of, like, moderation. It talks all the time about working hard. It's the roadmap for our life. And if we follow the principles in it, which Jesus pared down to love God and love people, he says things like, take care of the orphan and the widow in their distress, and keep yourself from being polluted by the world, which is the flesh versus the spirit. He talks about, going and making disciples of all nations and baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey his commands, for surely he's with us till the end of the age. He's very clear on his purpose and his mission: to be generous, to be kind, to be compassionate, to be loving. And then we let our own selfishness get in the way. We let our own desires get in the way. So when we seek him first, everything else is going to be taken care of. And that's whether that's finances, right? But it all comes down to stewardship, being intentional. And that comes down to finances. That comes down to what's going on in here. That comes down to what we're doing here, or if we're running or whatever. It comes down to what we're putting in our mouths and what's coming out of our mouths. So much of it just comes down to that one word of stewardship.
Said it perfect, bro.
Buddy, I've appreciated our time. I love you so much.
Love you too, brother.
And I'm looking forward to the next time we have a conversation. Maybe we could ask a different question. Thank you for your time today.
We'll only need one for the next one too, the way me and you.
Yeah, dude, we could talk forever. We could hang out forever. I know that. Like,
Dan, I don't think me and you have ever had a phone call that was less than an hour. Never mind the podcast.
Kindred spirits, bro. So you have a blessed weekend. Say hey to Mattia. I look forward to meeting her someday. We haven't even met in person, but that will happen someday.
We got to make it happen.
All right, man. I love you. Take care.